We have a fatal misunderstanding of how the end arrives. Hollywood and the history books have conditioned us to look for the cinematic markers of a dying republic. We expect the rumble of tanks on the Capitol steps. We expect the sudden blackout of the free press, the dramatic suspension of the Constitution, the violent roar of a coup d'etat. But history harbors a darker, quieter secret. When a system is being bled dry, when the primary objective of a ruling administration shifts from governance to the systematic extraction of wealth and power, the end is rarely a violent crescendo. Democracy does not die in a revolution, it dies in a whimper. It dies in the exhaustion of the public. It dies when the clock simply runs out. Today we are going to look at two parallel timelines. One is written in the blood and stolen wealth of the past. The other is unfolding in real time right in front of us. And by the end, you will see how these two stories are actually the exact same blueprint. Let's begin with the architects of the delay, the historical kleptocrats, the men who realized that you don't need to defeat justice, you just need to make it wait. In 1885, King Leopold II of Belgium convinced the world to hand him personal control of the Congo Free State. He didn't use an invading army, he used philanthropy. He spun a web of shell corporations and humanitarian fronts. For 20 years, as millions suffered and died under a brutal, forced labor regime to harvest rubber, Leopold stalled international scrutiny. By the time the world finally forced him to relinquish control in 1908, the damage was done. He had already extracted a vast, incalculable fortune. His weapon was institutional delay. Fast forward to the Philippines in the 1970s, Ferdinand Marcos realized that a democracy's legal system can be turned into a labyrinth. Declaring martial law in 1972 under the guise of national security, Marcos didn't just seize power, he froze time. Over 21 years, he and his wife Imelda funneled billions from the national treasury into Swiss accounts, Manhattan real estate, and fine art. How? By ensuring the courts were perpetually tied up, by playing Cold War superpowers against each other to keep foreign aid flowing. By the time the 1986 People Power Revolution ousted him, the Philippine coffers were hollowed out. Now look at our modern era. Look at the Trump administration through the lens of this exact same strategy. The narrative we are sold is one of ideological warfare, of a populist crusade. But what if we strip away the partisan noise? What if we look at it purely as a mechanical operation of wealth extraction? Just like Marcos, the modern mechanism relies on weaponizing the legal system. It is the exhaustion strategy. When subpoenas are issued to track missing funds, when independent watchdogs demand to see where pandemic relief or infrastructure money has gone, the administration does not comply, but nor do they immediately refuse. They litigate, they appeal to the appellate courts, they claim absolute executive privilege, they escalate to the Supreme Court. They know they might eventually lose the legal battle, but the verdict is irrelevant. The delay itself is the victory. If a court case takes 3 years to resolve, that is 3 years of unobstructed time to maneuver the Capitol, erase the digital paper trail, and run out the clock before the next election cycle. In Zaire, Mobutu Sese Seko ruled for 3 decades, amassing a $5 billion personal fortune while his country's roads and hospitals literally crumbled into the earth. Mobutu's genius was in blurring the line between the state treasury and his own pockets and using false diplomacy to shield himself. He positioned himself as a vital anti-communist ally. The West looked away from his theft because they needed his geopolitical loyalty. Watch the parallels converge. In the modern American iteration, the physical bags of cash are replaced by something much more insidious, the normalization of conflict of interest. The administration systematically blurs the line between public duty and private enterprise. It is the steering of government agencies, foreign diplomats, and corporate lobbyists to spend public and foreign money at properties owned by the administration. It is the transactional diplomacy where foreign policy, weapons deals, tariff relief, geopolitical favors is offered in exchange for trademark approvals, private loan forgiveness, and investment in personal businesses. Like Mobutu, it looks like statecraft on the surface, but the underlying engine is private enrichment. It is a grift executed in broad daylight. But to steal in broad daylight, you must disable the alarms. President Suharto of Indonesia stole an estimated $15 to $35 billion over 31 years by handing state monopolies to his family and neutralizing anyone who could audit him. He dismantled oversight from within. Our modern parallel achieves this through the methodical firing of inspectors general, by purging career civil servants and replacing them with unconfirmed temporary loyalists, by publicly discrediting the FBI, the intelligence agencies, and the free press as a deep state conspiracy. If you convince the public that the alarm system is corrupt, no one cares when you cut the wires. And this brings us to the most vital component of the modern kleptocracy, the smokescreen. Jean-Claude Duvalier used the brutal terror of his secret police to distract and suppress the Haitian public while he siphoned millions from state monopolies into his private accounts. But in the 21st century, physical terror is messy and inefficient. Today, the ultimate weapon of distraction is information overload. This is where the genius of the modern strategy lies. To steal the future, you must dominate the present. The administration acts as a perpetual engine of chaos. Every day brings a new manufactured outrage, a new cultural grievance, a vicious late-night social media post, a sudden erratic policy reversal. The electorate, the political opposition, and the press are forced to sprint on a treadmill, perpetually out of breath, chasing the scandal of the hour. You are meant to be outraged. You are meant to be exhausted, because while you are screaming about a tweet, while you are protesting a deliberate cultural provocation, the true work is being conducted in absolute silence. While the cameras are pointed at the circus, environmental protections are slashed to benefit private donors. Multi-billion-dollar no-bid contracts are quietly awarded to shell companies run by loyalists. Tax codes are rewritten in the dead of night. The volume of our public discourse is intentionally turned up to 11 simply to drown out the sound of the vault being emptied. The converging parallel is clear. Leopold, Marcos, Mobutu, Suharto, Duvalier. They all knew that time is the enemy of accountability. The modern playbook is not a deviation, it is a perfection of their art. The delay in the courts, the dismantling of oversight, the transactional diplomacy, the exhausting, deafening distraction. Just yesterday, the United States president openly defied the highest court in the land, announcing that tariffs will continue unabated despite their ruling.
All of those tariffs remain. They all remain. I don't know if you know that or not. They all remain. We're still getting them, and we will after the decision. I guess there's nobody left to appeal to.
There were no tanks deployed to shut down the Supreme Court building. There was no dramatic armed standoff at the Capitol. There was just a simple, blunt refusal to comply, a refusal instantly buried under a half-dozen new manufactured outrages by the end of the evening news cycle. We are waiting for the dramatic movie ending where the villain is cornered. We are waiting for the revolution. But there is no final confrontation at the gates of the palace. If this strategy succeeds, you simply wake up one day. The news cycle has moved on. The perpetrators have retired to their coastal estates, entirely immune from consequences. Their wealth secured behind a fortress of NDAs, shell companies, and pardons. The institutional guardrails are gone. The coffers are empty. Democracy will not be assassinated in the town square. It will be permitted to expire. Starved of resources, its final breath unnoticed beneath the endless roar of a manufactured circus. It dies in a whimper, and all while that clock